Hi, it's Peg and Des on
Sons of Anarchy.
So we saw the Marshal get deputized this week. I can't think of anybody worse to get deputized.
Yes.
Jax is a bad man. Does a lot of bad things.
Diabolical.
But before we dive in, I want to remind you guys to please subscribe to our channel.
Yes.
And like our video.
Yes, absolutely. And make sure to catch the other videos on our channel. We'll be doing the season finale of Breaking Bad early next week, so make sure to check in on that as well. We have to start out with the boys and the juxtaposition of imagery they were trying to do at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason Tara's really dead set on getting herself and her boys out of there is because it's pretty clear that, you know, with the life that Jax is living, he's putting those boys in danger, and they could end up just like that boy that shot up the school.
Exactly. It was interesting as Oprah, the DEA, was on the microphone, almost in a voiceover at some points, talking about the incident with the young man who killed his classmates. And we keep seeing pictures of Jax holding the kid, doing nurturing things with the children, and you are nurturing your children, yet you are out here facilitating the murder of other children.
Right. So, you know, run, Tara, run.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you know,
which will be a little hard now that she's pregnant. That has been announced.
So, is she pregnant, though? Because I have a feeling that she told Gemma, she's telling Jax, she leaves that thing on the table. I'm sort of wondering if this isn't somehow involved in the ploy and the scheme to get away.
That's interesting, and the reason, you know, I'm all about facial expressions during hugs. I talked about this a great deal last week.
Yeah.
But when Gemma and Tara hugged at the truck
Yes.
after she announced the pregnancy, I don't know if you noticed, but when Gemma turned around to look at the boys, Tara had an uneasy face. She wasn't consistent in her face.
Right.
And there's something underlying there that doesn't look right.
I feel like there's a chance she's not really pregnant, and this is going to tie into some sort of plan she had. But we'll see.
She works at a hospital, and she knows how to get all the results that she needs to look a certain way.
Right.
Well, she used to work at a hospital, but you know.
Yeah, so we'll see. Plus, I didn't believe that she really had a doctor's appointment for her hand.
No, not at all. Not
she
at
went
all.
somewhere else.
We need to talk about Clay.
So Clay, you know, this guy, they can't kill him. He's like a cat with 9 lives. Every time we think Clay's donezo,
Clay is like Old Yeller. And he looks like Old Yeller in the face too.
He's like,
But he looks like
stressed.
yes. Clay will not be defeated.
No. So you think Clay's done, you know, he finally gets his dying wish, which is to talk to Jax, and he's on his little sorrow pity tour.
And Jax is not having it.
No.
Jax immediately says, I'm not buying it.
Right.
And even tells the marshal through the window,
Yes.
I don't care what you do with him. Just don't go after my wife.
The way he said it too was like
Venomous.
I know that you're, you know, taking this very personally and a lot of pain, but I'm going to show you how personal it gets if you don't stop coming after my wife.
But him back there, I'm not worried.
Well, I mean, let's talk about the marshal. The marshal's not worried because he's a crazed, drug-addicted psychopath. So between the two of them, I kind of think Jack should be scared, to be honest.
I don't know. Clearly the marshal is on drugs. I think Jax is on that natural crazy. I would love to see what's going to happen between the two of them. This may be the duel of the season.
It's pretty
Jax
epic.
v. Marshall.
It's epic because that marshal, first of all, what is Oprah doing taking the marshal under her bosom and deputizing him and sending him around town, running around, investigating this gun situation?
Talking about being a special investigator is a temp job. And she said it's only on a weekly basis. Ma'am, really?
Why is she not speaking to Rockman Dunbar? Rockman Dunbar is
For those of you who don't know Rockman's real name, he's the chief of Charming Police.
He is the local law enforcement in Charming. Why is he not doing her legwork? Why is this rando dude all of a sudden her new best friend?
Rockman is at his desk doing paperwork because that's exactly where Jax found him, and that's exactly where Oprah plans to leave him. As for Clay, so we see the conversation with Jax.
Yes.
Then we see him and the marshal,
Yes.
and he doesn't sign the papers, and he gets transferred to Stockton.
Right. So you think this is it? He's gonna get shivved. He thinks he's gonna get shivved. Here come the black guys to shiv him. Except
Yes.
they say it doesn't have to go down like this.
Yes, I was wondering what they wanted from him. I couldn't tell if they were trying to get their own gang connections going. They wanted some guns from the Irish. I made up so many storylines in my mind during that break. Come to find out, they wanted him to kill another white man on the yard.
They just wanted him to kill some old white supremacist. Very easy. That's all it takes to save his life.
Yes.
I think Clay got off incredibly lightly.
Well, here's what's interesting. When he goes back to solitary after his day one fight, he receives a shank from one of the prisoners. And the prisoner says, here's a gift. You're going to need it, basically.
Right.
Clay is now in a space where he is going to have to protect himself all day, every day. And that is exhausting because the black people want you dead. Now, granted, they gave you some reprieve.
Well, remember, though, the black people don't want him dead anymore because Jax told August that he actually needs Clay to smooth over the Irish gun situation.
Right. That's true.
And
do you think that message trickled down to the yard yet?
It seems like messages travel pretty quickly.
Okay.
The
carrier pigeon got out.
Yes.
So I guess from the African Americans who are locked up, they can look at Clay as a potential ally, but he really better watch his back with those white supremacists.
Yes.
That's who he needs to pay attention to.
Right. I'm presuming they're going to get him out under some premise, but he needs to be careful until then.
Right. I'm excited to see what's going to happen next week with Clay. We have to talk about the Persians that don't really exist anymore.
Well, I mean, last week we saw what happened with the brother, a very gruesome scene. This week, his brother's looking for him. He's like, I know you guys killed him. And they just shoot up the whole little coterie of Jax, Nero,
everybody's in there.
Peter Weller, whose name I also don't know on the show, the cop, the dirty cop, the whore from last week, the whore madam, and they just go shooting the place up. And they're like, what? WTF? Like, what's going on? Why are you guys shooting at us?
I love the fact that Jax, Peter Weller, and the rest of the gang went over to the boat so quickly. Nobody sat down to devise a plan. Nobody said, I wonder if they're armed. I wonder how many of them there are. It was very much like, all right, we riding out. Let's go ahead and take care of this right away.
And they roll up gangster like, oh, we don't need our guns. Yeah, sure, whatever.
Well, we see why they don't need their guns. Because they're in there about to cut people open with knives.
Yes.
All over that nice white rug.
But, at first, I think Jax genuinely didn't know what happened to the brother. But he figures it out pretty quick.
Tig
strikes again. And he's already told Tig, stop acting without checking with me first.
Right.
You are not allowed to do anything.
Tig is a loose cannon.
Right. And so what happens to loose cannons?
You got to get gone.
Right. So...
Right.
There's a beautiful scene where Jax gives Tig some task to complete, but before he does it, he gives him that Michael Corleone kiss on the cheek.
Yes.
Remember from The Godfather Part 2 when Michael looks at his brother Fredo, takes him out of the boat, and he says, I know you did it, Fredo, and he gives him that kiss. That's the same kiss Jack gave Tig, and turns him over to August.
He does, and the conversation with August was especially interesting underneath the freeway because Jax is saying to August, I'm going to take some advice from your old boss, and I'm going to get rid of the thing that's causing me trouble. Now, he verbally says it's the guns, and he says that he's actually going to get Kara going, or get started again, which I can't wait to see what that foolishness will look like. But anyways, he says, I'm going to get rid of that thing, says guns, but then writes down on a piece of paper, and we now know what that is. It's Tig, and he's telling August where Tig is going to be.
I speculate that Tig will not be dead next week, and I also speculate that Jax is going to get found out by the MC for what he's done. I don't really think it's going to go over well that he handed over a brother to August without so much as a buy your leave.
No, and I feel like Chibs is going to lead that charge because Chibs, once again this episode, is demonstrating yet another batch of issues with Jax. Every week there is a point of contention between Chibs and Jax. It hasn't escalated, but every week there's something. So I can only imagine what this is going to lead up to.
Well, I mean, let's face it, Jax is not a good leader of the motorcycle club.
No.
And he's turned horrible. He's a horrible character. He's very reprehensible.
Right.
I really can't stand Jax, and I hope that they clean up Charlie Hunnam for Christian Grey, because right now, as it stands, I could barely stand to look at him. So let's see what happens with that.
He'll get himself together before 50 Shades of Grey.
All right, please do. Okay, so what is Wendy up to? Can you tell me real quick?
Okay, so I actually believed Wendy's story. Up until, because it seemed like the kind of mess Wendy could get into. Wendy's at an NA meeting, man chases her down, whatever the case. I was in that story. Come to find out, Wendy has makeup on her neck and she's hiding the fact that she's not really hurt. And I can't understand her motivation. Is it to get back in Gemma's good graces? Is it to get in communication with Jax? Is it to demonstrate to Tara that she is not in a position to take the boys? Because remember, either a week or 2 weeks ago, she said she didn't want the boys.
Well, here's the interesting thing. Gemma gave Wendy one of those illegal guns with the ID number filed down. What if Wendy's going to use that gun and turn them in? What if she says, look, I got this from these guys and you have these guns floating around now?
What would be Wendy's motivation for turning the whole club in, though?
Because maybe she's in cahoots with Tara, who's told her, I want to get away from Jax. I need to get away from him. You're my guardian. You want to help your son? You want to help me get away from him? Help me with my plan.
That's interesting. I like that plot line. That is, I like that. Tara and Wendy.
Right. Teaming up.
Got it.
Right.
Well,
so,
we'll see.
We'll see what happens. Last thing, Crazy Marshall kills the poor accidentally, I think.
Right.
And then uses her body and her DNA to frame Nero.
He is cray. She is laying in the tub, dead, and he's petting her.
I know.
Petting her in the bathtub. Why he's trying to frame Nero?
I don't know. What's Nero done to him?
I guess at this point, it's really just the whole entity. Anything in or around it. Because it started out avenging the sister's death.
Right.
We originally started with that individual problem. And each week, it seems like he's just getting bigger and bigger with the problems.
Yeah.
So I think that he just wants to take down everybody. And not because he's noble, but because he's crazy.
Well, I'm just glad I didn't see any violent prison rapes this week. That's all I have to
But I will say that I definitely turned my face away when he was in with the bottle and the teeth. I definitely turned away.
I can watch it.
Right, and then if one wasn't enough, they had to do it a second time. I said, "Come on, sons, this is a little gratuitous.
Yes.
Because you've already done this with the first guy. Do we really need to do this a second time?" I got the picture.
I didn't watch either time. The noise enough was bad enough for me.
I literally turned my head.
Yeah, me too. All right, so let's see what happens next week.
Yes.
I think we're gonna find out what happens to Tig, right?
Yes, we should.
We are going to see what happens with Nero because now Rockman Dunbar's found the body of the dead hooker. And can we just play a little tiny violin for Jax finding out that his hooker is hooking up with the dirty cop as well as him, and he was all bummed out over it. Can I play the world's tiniest violin for him? He's sad over that. Whatever, Jax.
That was funny. The sex between them just made my stomach turn. RoboCop. Sorry.
All right, so let's find out what happens with all these characters next week. Again,
Absolutely.
Please, guys, subscribe to our channel and remember to give us a thumbs up on the video.
Yes, and make sure to check out the other videos on this channel. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.